Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today I'd like to tell you about something that's been on my mind quite a while. It's very near and dear to my heart, and it's my ancestry of all things. I was born a few years back. I am Greek Irish, and I never really affiliated myself with either being Greek or Irish until I was a little bit younger than I am today. That being said, I kind of have a recollection when I was about 7 or 8 years old, going to my Greek grandfather's home in Los Angeles, and he was barbecuing a whole lamb on his front lawn. And there were all these people there that I had no clue. I was probably clinging to one of my parents, and I was looking at people like, who the heck are these people? And come to find out many years later that I was related to a fair amount of them. Anyway, moving along, I eventually decided that I favored my Greek ancestry more than anything, only because it seemed to be interesting from a standpoint of food, which I was introduced to at a very young age, okay? And I mean, I wasn't making spanakopita in my days off and that kind of thing, but, there always seemed to be feta. There always seemed to be calamatas or something in the refrigerator growing up that, you could always affiliate with being Greek. And I had a fair relationship with my grandfather, my Greek grandfather, and my parents divorced when I was young. That being said, I never saw my Greek grandfather as often as I probably would have liked to. And so eventually I grew up. I got a job in a restaurant, and that progressively put me into a situation where I became a salesman with a food distributor out of San Francisco. And once a year, they would hold these large conventions in downtown San Francisco at a place called Moscone Center. Many of you may be aware of it, having maybe even been there. And I was at this one particular show, and I was helping set up, and it was opening day, and there was tons of people there. And this man walked over to me, and he's looking at my name badge, which we had to have. And he says, "Are you familiar with the meaning of your last name?" And I said, honestly, no. And he said, "If you have 10 seconds, let me just tell you this." And he went on to describe what my last name meant in history going back 1,000 years. It was of a noble situation. It was a very hierarchy situation. And I was frankly a little taken back. And I just kind of buried that in my brain and lived with it for a while. And every once in a while, and now and then, I'd think about it. But, and as time goes by and you get a little bit older, I sat down one day and I started to look into ancestry.com. And what a tool. And there were just things that just, if you can think of it and you can put in the right information, it's there and you can, print it out. So that's exactly what I did. And as time went by, I recall, I think it was in the 70s that my dad and a few other people, a couple of my cousins, I believe, went to Greece. And when they came back, they were telling me about it and that kind of thing. And the village that they visited was where my grandfather and his father was still alive. And I have a picture of my great-grandfather in Greece, and he's blind. And he was blind then, excuse me, it's been some years. And he was being shaved by my father. Kind of a touching photograph I have found looking back at it on occasion. And simply because of generation. So, here's my dad at maybe 50, in his 40s or 50, early 50s, shaving his grandfather in a village with no paved roads, goats living under the house, leeches cleaning the water that's stored under the house, that kind of thing. And so I kind of said to myself, one of these days I'd love to go there. As time goes by, and it did very fast, I was living in Los Angeles in 2019, and I made contact with a relative. And we had lunch, and we sat and we became acquainted. It's been years. Anyway, I asked him right away. I said, I knew the name of this village where my grandfather grew up, where my great-grandfather is probably buried. And I was told that the name had changed. And I'll tell you what that name is, and it may have absolutely no meaning. It's Lamendakis. It was Phrygia. It's in the area of the Peloponnese in Greece. And I've seen a video on YouTube that a fellow with my last name and his mom and his daughter kind of did a walk-through tour. And they ran into a few people that the mother had known while she was living there, I guess. There was no husband. I'm not quite sure what that situation was. Anyway, him and I made contact. We talked a few times. It never got, it never went too further than that. But it was interesting to speak to somebody that had my own name, my own last name, and spelled it exactly like me. And so every once in a rare while, actually, I'll get a message from him or something like that. But in my dreams, I hope to get to Greece. And I am getting older. I'm proud of it. I like being part Greek. I like being part Irish. But I don't sit down once a year and make Irish stew. I don't sit down and and think of the potato famine in Ireland or anything like that. But there's always seems to be, some acknowledgement of, have you been to Greece? Oh, you got to go. It is beautiful. You don't want to leave, And then there was a commercial on the internet where this guy was dragging his girlfriend, and you could see the scratch marks from her nails, and she goes, no, don't take me home. Don't take me home. I want to stay. It was funny. It was well done, too. But yeah, Greece is certainly on my bucket list, and I do hope to take myself there and my wife. And she's not of American descent. She's from the Philippines. And having spent time there, I don't really have a need or desire to go back. It was beautiful, but it was hot. I'll leave it at that. Anyway, what's your nationality is the big question. Are you part Greek? Can you identify with some of the things I've talked about here today? If so, I'd love to hear from you. Doesn't mean we have to have dinner. I just like to know that there's somebody else out there that maybe is not full Greek, but at the same time, feels closer to that ancestry than maybe your other, okay? But my mother was the Irish. My grandfather, my Greek grandfather, had come to this country when he was 12 on a ship. Took him 2 or 3 weeks. I can't remember exactly the thing. Some of that information I have on ancestry.com. I printed it, and I hope to maybe be able to share it with you here. I can't put my hands on it immediately. But that being said, I feel that the heritage, if that's the correct word, to be able to look back and say, God, this was my grandfather. I got a list of these passengers that came to the United States through Ellis Island, and my grandfather was 12 years old. And a story has moved through our family over the years, and I was told that when you are processed through Ellis Island, they test you for certain diseases and such, and when you're ready to get passed on to the next station, they took his jacket and they folded it back over his shoulders, and they made an X on his shirt, big X across his front, and with chalk, I guess. And then they passed him on. Well, he lived in Chicago or New York for a while, eventually went to Los Angeles, and ironically fell in love and married an Irish lady. And it was so inbred in him that he didn't tell anybody. He was ashamed, I guess is the word. So he had my dad, he had my uncle by another wife, and he had an aunt, two aunts. Now, let me take you back. I'm standing with my mom and dad on my grandfather's front lawn in Los Angeles, and he's barbecuing a lamb, whole lamb. And one of the people that I had, for some reason, been told that's your Aunt B, was her name, I absolutely paid no attention. But suddenly at about 40 years old, I get a phone call. Is this Mike Dukas? Yeah. This is your Aunt B. Oh my God. You know, it hit me like I've never been knocked off my feet. Hit me like a train. And from that phone call forward, we became so close. The details really aren't important. We talked about everything and everybody in the family and dates and birthdays and my dad and her husband who had passed away and my cousins who I'd met after many, many, many years. But it was a thrill. It was a thrill to connect with her. Anyway, she eventually passed away in Los Angeles, and I was in the Philippines of all places when she did. But anyway, long story short, I'm part Greek. I love that part of life. I love the food. I can't wait to go there. And I love to hear from you. I'm going to make a few more videos and continue this story. So if I've caught your interest, please subscribe, make a comment, give me a thumbs up, whatever you're in the mood for. I'd appreciate very much. And as they say, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.